It's the mini-so with Josh and Sergio. Oh, wait. Step right up, and welcome to the mini-so. This is Josh and Sergio. Exactly. All right. Yeah.
All right. So
well, I'm great at that.
Oh shoot! I have actually a listener question that I forgot to
ask on the episode. Did you ask people for questions?
I did not, but this was just one that I had.
Oh, people asked.
Yeah, a long time ago. But
shout out to.
I believe it was actually Plague of Crows.
Oh, okay.
I think he's the only one.
Wasn't there someone that gave us a question recently?
I feel like we answered it, but I don't know.
Did we? I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, so the topic for today is success conscious versus failure conscious. Mm-hmm. And I guess this comes from like an old book that I don't know if you ever even looked into that book, but Think and Grow Rich.
Look into a book. Don't be ridiculous, Sergio. Hey, Sergio. Hey, don't be ridiculous.
Let's you think about reading a book.
You know what's funny is the other day my brother, we've been going through some random shit with my family. So my brother was like, oh, if you talk to this person, and shout out to Gay, by the way, and and he was like, oh, this is what I responded back. So they like sent it to me, and he reads the quote or the text he wrote while I'm reading it. And while I'm reading it, like maybe like halfway through, he's like, holy shit, you read slow. And I'm like, yeah, I'm dyslexic. And he's like, you are? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm not like certified, but like I looked at all of the like the things that you have to, I like looked at like the symptoms, and I literally have every single one of them.
Shit.
I'm like, I'm almost positive I have like severe dyslexia.
Damn.
So yeah. So thanks a lot, Sergio, for bringing up a book. You know they're my biggest enemies.
You want to tell me more? Okay, so
you know what's funny too is Eric Weinstein. He has dyslexia.
Oh, really?
But he looks at it as positive, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of do the same as well. Like it helps me. It's like the whole like blind thing, you know, like when you can't see, you hear better. It's like when I can't read, I figure out how to like solve problems differently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I totally see that in how my brain works. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of like a big part of who I am as a person is based kind of around this idea that like I had to figure out shit outside of like reading shit. Thank God for YouTube though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Holy shit. But go on, sorry.
No, it's like audiobooks. Do you fuck with audiobooks?
I fuck with audiobooks.
Well, I'm pretty sure that one's on audiobook.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't know. I actually have no idea if you would like that book or not. If you think it was corny.
What I like is like fiction.
Okay.
I like fiction with like almost like things that are similar to like parables, like they have like an overall kind of idea they want to present.
Okay.
Through fiction as like the way they make their argument. That's how I like things.
Oh, okay. This is probably the opposite of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to
It's like a finance self-help book, basically.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. It's like it was like in the 30s or 40s or something I was written to, so add that on there.
It's weird because I'll listen to like Steven Pinker, right? Steven Pinker.
Yeah.
You know, he has like those ideas about how the world's actually getting better.
We're talking about like positivity.
Yeah. And I tried to like listen to his audiobook. I just fucking couldn't get myself through it. But I love his ideas. Like when he talks about him, I love it. But like audiobook version, I'm like, I just can't do it, man. Like,
Makes sense.
Or like Sam Harris, same way. I tried to listen to his books. I'm like, can't do it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
All that shit.
That's interesting. Like podcast versus like formal writing or reading.
It is weird. But yeah. Sorry. Segue after segue, people.
No, always
He'll
is new
get there.
format.
You just got hit with a classic waiting to try tangent.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, the basic premise is like when a challenge is presented to you, or maybe not even just a challenge, but just like a new thing that you're facing in life, do you go into it thinking like, I'm going to succeed at it or I'm going to fail at it?
Right.
And just, like I would say for the most part myself, when it comes to art, I have a success consciousness around it. But when it gets to other things, it's kind of like a mixed bag versus like, oh, this probably isn't going to work. And I think it took me a long time, especially with like business related stuff, to get to a little bit more of a success conscious state about things. But I think especially starting out, I was a bit more like, oh, this probably isn't going to work, but I guess I'll try it anyway.
Right.
And I think it held me back for a long time, like trying to figure out how to succeed in art. When I was like, I think it was a little bit like how we were talking about in the last episode about that meme, whereas like I think a lot of people or a lot of artists are failure conscious when it comes to business. Yeah. So yeah, I was just curious about like your thoughts about that. Like, do you agree, and do you feel like you're overall like success conscious or failure conscious?
I would say that, I mean, like obviously, like it's not like so like black and white.
Sure.
But I would say for the most part, I'm like a take your shot type of person. Like, like I think like I keep trying to tell MJ, like specifically around social media, I say like, I think the moment I started doing really good in social media was the moment when I didn't throw away a silly idea so flippantly.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, that's dumb
Yeah.
or whatever. And then when you start just kind of being like, oh, that might be a fun idea to do, or like I think that's actually pretty funny, or like at least trying it out and seeing if it works, instead of like immediately talking yourself out of it because you might not look cool or some shit like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? The moment I kind of like realized like, oh, I just be yourself, like that bullshit everyone says was like, I was just being myself. And,
Sure.
But one of the big parts of that is like not talking yourself out of ideas is really like what they mean.
Yeah.
It's like oh, I have this idea that's dumb, or like I'm not going to get to it or whatever. It's like if you can figure out how to like do silly things to like, or like it doesn't even have to be silly. What it has to be is like something you think is like who you are, and you pursue it,
Right.
then people like get attracted to that because they kind of get attracted to who you are, as authentic as you are.
Right.
Where like if you're looking at other people saying like, what are they doing, or like, all that kind of shit, then there's like it's almost like you're too late to the show type of event. Where you're just doing your own shit. Like you're just doing your own shit. Like, and you're having fun. People are attracted to that shit.
So would you say you're like more likely to succeed when you focus on like, okay, this is just what I want to do?
I don't know about succeed, but you're going to be a lot happier.
Sure.
Like, I mean, one of the issues I found with like this kind of thing was like, it seems almost as though like failure is the wrong word. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I kind of know what you mean.
It's like success versus, I don't think failure is not the opposite of success. Like, it's almost should be like attempt versus talk yourself out. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it's something like that. Like because if you failed, that means you took a stab and you failed. But if you like never get past like, I think it's more like you pursue versus you just are stagnant.
Right.
Like that's the difference. Like
okay.
if I fail pursuing, at least I took the shot. At least I tried. You know, if I stand here and give myself 10 reasons of why I shouldn't pursue, then then you never progress. But if I at the worst case scenario, if I pursue and I fail, at least I might have learned something. And then the next time I pursue, maybe I learned something more, and then maybe the 5th time I get my goal, at least every time I failed, I moved a step forward.
Right.
Or like, I don't know, like the failure succeed thing is a bit, it's not the correct wording. I get the sentiment, but
yeah,
I think there's something.
I would almost say it's more like fear versus courage.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like. Yeah, fear dictating your choices, and fear is not the worst thing either. That's the thing too. Is like, obviously, don't run into a fucking cage with lions, or don't fucking walk on the edge of a building, to get your heart pumping or some shit. Like,
I guess it's more like fear of a perceived outcome, kind of.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, it's something. I don't know. I mean, we're tiptoeing around ideas of the right wording, but I think it ends up being the same thing. It's like you not pursuing something based on either fear or like wanting to look a certain way. I mean, which also might be fear or your ego or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that all is a perceived outcome as well, where it's like, okay, if I do this, then people are going to think I'm this, or and I don't want that, so I'm not going to try.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, maybe fear is the right word.
Whereas courage is like,
take
I don't know.
Shot.
Yeah.
And the understanding that failure isn't like the worst shit. Like standing still and not like progressing, to me, it's like, especially when it comes to like your success. I mean, that to me seems like a much, God, I just lost my fucking train of thought.
Well, like anything I've looked into as far as business, like as a way of growing your business, everybody's like, the worst thing you can do is just not try. Right. Like,
it's like the equivalent, like, have you ever gone like, like when you first try to go camping by yourself?
Sure.
You suck at it, pass at it. And it's like, if you quit there, then
you're just like,
then you hate camping.
Yeah.
But like, if you get better and better at it, all of a sudden you might find this like, you have a skill set and a love for it that you wouldn't have gotten, but because you failed in the beginning, you never got all that reward at the end.
Sure. So I wonder if it's like artists that just don't like business because they tried a few things and failed at it, and
maybe
didn't stick with it,
or maybe because they're too busy like saying I'm an artist, not a business person.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that. I'm sure I've said that shit on this podcast. But I mean,
I've definitely said it before.
Yeah. And one thing I've realized is I remember watching little documentaries of artists and the ones I looked up to, and they would always talk about how that they wish they learned business sooner. And I remember thinking like, fuck that. Like, what pencil? What pencil?
Shout out to your comment feed.
And then you get to a certain stage and you're like, oh yeah, I 100% understand what they're saying. Because there's this weird reaction us as artists have where we push back against the business side. That's why galleries, we find them so valuable, because we let them run that end,
Right.
But it's like because we have this like instant, like, I don't want to do that part, I just want to do this and this only. But it's like, I don't know, eat your broccoli, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true though. Yeah, it's like not wanting to take responsibility for that part of your career.
Right.
But once you do and you figure it out, I feel like the evidence is there that the rewards are big. Like, you can look at I don't know, for example, like Audrey Kawasaki, and see like she hustles really hard and like she's built a little bit of a mini empire for herself, and not just her, obviously, but like James Jean, like he pretty much has his hand in every pot imaginable.
MJ pointed out to me really recently. She was like, "Oh, you know that Inlander girl?
Oh yeah,
she's like
Joanne Nam.
Yeah, she's like she doesn't show with anyone ever anymore."
Oh, is that right?
And I was like, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "Yeah, she didn't show with anyone ever." And I was like, "God damn, that's that business hustle. That's what it is." She has the ability to not show, just to make all of that money herself. 100% of it goes to her. And I was like, God damn, like that's what eating your broccoli gets you.
Yeah, exactly.
It gets you a better business model.
Yeah.
Than the one we're presented as the main option.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't say we came late to that realization, but...
No, we came hella early.
Yeah.
We're hella smart. We read books, lots and lots of books.
But yeah, it took me too long relative to like my fine art career to get to that thing.
It's better late than never, right?
Right. Yeah, because it almost was for me like I was forced into that.
Right.
Being like, galleries aren't like doing what I want them to do for me. I'm like, I need to do this myself then.
I think a big part of it, and I think... like with the whole like tension that happened recently between me and you, one of the realizations or one of the things I kind of had to come to grips with was like the benefits that this podcast has on my life specifically, and realizing that like having these conversations is almost like maybe I wouldn't come to this realization for another like 5 years.
Right.
But because we have
Likewise.
them, all your ideas are tested. You hear other people's point of views. You start fucking putting them against yours, and you start realizing like, maybe I'm fucking wrong about these ideas, and maybe like adapting my ideas to like, work better is, there's nothing wrong about that. And I think that was one realization I came to during that time, was like, the business, I remember my brother, he was like, I was talking to him, and around the time where I dropped the print.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh, I remember like talking to you like 2 years ago, and you were like, I'm never gonna do prints."
Yeah.
You're like, that's not what I do. I do like this. This is my business model, and like I do these things, and then, that idea changes when you start thinking about the relationship between galleries. And maybe a big part of that for me was like Wonderland closing. And me kind of having to like reassess what I'm doing as well. Because you get comfortable sometimes. That's another thing. Comfort is can be a fear.
Yeah.
Going back to the topic, it's like comfort can create stagnation. And
definitely.
Nothing wrong with comfort, but you have to be aware of it so that you can make sure that in those moments that you're fighting against it. Because I don't think it takes that much effort. It just takes effort, to go like, I'm sitting in this, and you see it all the time with artists. When they start selling out shows, all of a sudden their artwork gets shittier. And you're like, what happened? And I could only assume it's comfort.
So do you believe in trying to manufacture discomfort?
No, it's not that. It's not.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
It's not manufacturing discomfort. It's understanding that comfort can create stagnation, but it doesn't have to. It's almost like, for instance, like Joe Rogan, let's say, right? Like he's a very wealthy man at this point, but he still puts in his work. He still grinds it out, right? He still, before this whole shutdown, he will still go to his the comedy store and work out his routine because he understands that creating what he considers his art form, that sounded wrong, but creating his art takes this long effort to do so, and you can't cheat it because you're successful. You don't get to you know, like the other, like I'm actually not the biggest Joe Rogan comedy fan, but like, but you do see where like comedians I think are hilarious, and then they become successful, and then they come back to do comedy, and you're like, oh, you suck now. But it doesn't exist for everyone. Dave Chappelle, still fucking genius, still hilarious. Bill Burr, rich, famous, hilarious, because they put in that effort, understanding that comfort can create stagnation. They put in the effort to make sure that that doesn't happen to them. And that doesn't mean become a fucking pizza my heart kid. Shout out to last episode. That means fucking realizing what it takes to create good work, and then always, and not letting the comforts of life blind you from that. Saying I could still enjoy comfort, but I still have to put in the hours in my craft.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like ideally, I think that's what most artists are pursuing that comfort for, so that they have the freedom to pursue their craft harder, and not get distracted by like. But shit.
The comfort can make you fear, right? Because you can go, I don't want to. I need to sell this work, right? So I can't take that risk. True. So that's where the comfort and fear like also plays. Like I'm too comfortable in this because I can sell it, and then I feel like if you pursue that mentality, it's hard to pull away from it. Secondly, by the time you might realize it, it might be too late. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have those habits built in of not taking risk. Taking risk is such a hard habit to hold on to.
It is
in general.
Yeah.
And so you have to make sure to like contain that bitch and be like, I can't let comfort make me lose this idea of taking risks. Because you only get to be a good artist if you do that, in my opinion. If you take risks. And yeah, so I mean, it goes back to fear at the end of the day, I suppose. So yeah, maybe it is. Was it fear versus
courage? Yeah.
I mean, that was a conversation we had before, like restarting the podcast after the break. Is like like we can't move in fear. Like like we have to like be able to have conversations. You know, I mean, this podcast, whether we like to admit it or not, I mean, it's an art form, and to get good at it, you have to be fearless. You can't let
that's a good point.
Conversation be dictated by fear. But by the ability to have an open conversation. Right. Whether you're right or wrong. I mean, we can all hopefully agree that you can change your opinions and grow or whatever as human beings, but like you have to have your ideas tested. But yeah. I mean, as far as like what was the other side? The failure.
Being failure conscious.
What we're calling fear consciousness.
I guess so. Sure.
I would say that.
Yeah, I guess like failure conscious meaning like you're trying to avoid the consequences of putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Well, I don't. For the most part, I feel. I mean, I used to do graffiti. You know, it's like the reward is so little, and the risk is so high. I'm nowhere near the risk taker I was back then. But
what did you personally get out of doing the graffiti back then?
I don't know. The admiration of your peers probably was the main reason most graffiti artists do it.
Okay.
Which, I mean, in a weird way, art is similar. I mean,
it's still that in some way.
There's a monetary gain. Yeah. I mean, probably all art forms, actually. But there's like no monetary gain.
Yeah, of course. Which is like makes it in some way a more noble pursuit to some people. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, we're trying to like change that whole idea that like money is like not noble, right?
Right. Yeah. Providing for your family is noble.
Yeah.
It is the world we live in.
Right.
I mean, in that case, just go fucking buy a piece of land off the grid and grow corn if, you know, But even then, I guess I guess this is in regards to your peers finding their admiration. So you won't find that growing corn. So I take it back.
Yeah. Unless you make friends with a lot of gardeners.
Yeah. Or Monsanto.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they'll be like, I want a piece of that.
My homie
Buy you.
Monsanto?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We did it. Did we do it?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much 25 minutes in.
There was another topic if you want to touch it or not. I mean, 25 minutes, that's mini-sode.
That's mini-sode worthy, right?
I think so. We
right.
did it. We fucking did it.
All right.
Awesome. Well, do you sign off then? Yeah, because I intro, you sign off, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. This has been a Waiting to Dry mini-sode. If you're still listening, don't fail.
Go Google that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I said go Google it. It was my, when I say something and you push the button.
Yeah.